we go. All right. Oh, yeah, look at him. You got to fight him on the surface.
What I like to do is take an RC jig from Northland Fishing Tackle.
Get the shiner after the fish attacked it. Hook 'em weedless style.
This puppy wanted a jig-sized sucker minnow. Yeah, sucker minnow.
How are you guys doing? Brian Brosdahl here, and this is the Bro Road Show, and we want you to catch more fish this year, and this is our segment on the water, and I'm glad you're joining us tonight, and this is going to be tips from all across the Midwest. I've got a lot of information coming out, and we got some great guests tonight, but before I bring on Sam, I just want to rehash what's going on. We're under 3 weeks from the Minnesota Walleye Opener. We just got nailed with torrential downpours, and good to see you too. And now, right now, it's like 25, 27 degrees. Hey, how's it going, man? And it's really changed. But the nice thing about this cool off is a lot of people are getting flooded. We were getting hit so hard with rain here. Actually, the kind of rain you would imagine, you know, in tropical environments, and so flooded basements and septics filling up from International Falls all the way to Bemidji. And some of that same rain carried over into Canada and down to, how you doing, David? And down into Wisconsin. But it's been a tumultuous year all the way, going all the way down as far as Detroit River, some of the toughest fishing they've had, which now is like super good. But Wisconsin Opener is May 7th, so that's not far away. So we need things to start doing well. And John Myra from northern Wisconsin gave me the report last night that the lakes are starting to open there. There's ice is moving around. Winnebago is always open, and there's a lot of bodies of water like Mississippi River, just like we are here. Good to see you, JD. There was Dakota border is still open, and of course, hey, how you doing, Lauren from the UP? Thanks for coming in. But there's a lot of places to fish. And I also want to congratulate Jason Fritz, last week's winner. Congrats on that great winning prize pack. What a fantastic thing. And so now, before I bring in Sam, I want to say I talked to Dusty Minke today, and he's going to I'm going to have a little report from what's going on in Jamestown a little bit. But I want to say thanks for tuning in. And Brooke, go ahead and bring on Sam. I want to see what's going on. Hey, Sam, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
You know, I can't complain. I'm super happy right now that without this cool down, there'd be a lot of flooded stuff going on. I heard there's over 200 houses that were flooded in Bemidji, and that's crazy, huh?
We had a lot of water around here. The rivers are way up. The lakes are getting way up. So, yeah, it's crazy how things went, you know, from pretty dry. That first meltdown, the ground just kind of soaked everything up because it was so dry, to now, you know, we're in some of that flood conditions. And, yeah, it's crazy how quickly things have changed. So,
yeah, it's been a wild ride in the Bemidji and surrounding areas all the way to Canada and Dakotas. More snow. They don't want snow. It's calving season over there. They're tired of it. And it's raising the waters. But, you know, the rivers are coming out of their banks. The water's turning muddy from the North Dakota border all the way to the south tip of Minnesota, South Dakota border. Anything that's got a flow is getting really muddy. So that's really changing things up. But, Sam, did any of the lakes open up yet up there? What's the report?
No, we still have ice. I saw a guy just commented he was on Leech with 24 inches left. I will say, though, that Lake Bemidji, the south end where the river is pouring out, it's getting darker. It's definitely getting darker and darker by the day. But yet we have a long ways to go, especially on the lakes without any flow in them. So we'll get there. Sturgeon, though, the catch to keep sturgeon season opened up on the Rainy River here on the 24th. So that's still going. You can catch and keep, I believe, with a tag until May 7th. And then May 8th through the 15th opener is back to catch and release. And then it closes down for a few months to let those fish do their thing and spawn. So there's more to catch in the future. So I assume that they got some of this rain too, and the water's a little dirty, but you're still seeing pictures of guys catching them here and there. So you can't catch them sitting at home, and there isn't any open water around here. So you might as well give it a shot, right?
Well said. Very true. And that is like its own thing. The sturgeon thing went like wildfire, and I was told many years ago by Al Linder that it was going to be like that, and it truly is. It's an amazing thing catching big prehistoric shark-like things in fresh water, and they're so readily available. But Sam, I seen you caught a sturgeon with wings. Was that a sturgeon or was that a turkey?
Yeah. The boat is still in storage, so I opted to go out and do a little turkey hunting and had some success this weekend.
Wow.
So relieved to have that tag punched. So now I can focus on fishing, getting the boat ready, and get out there as soon as we have open water. Maybe in July or so.
See, there's Sam. While I'm trying to figure out fishing, he's out turkey hunting. But that's a good extracurricular activity. Way to go, Sam!
It was a fun little day on Sunday there. So
Sam, Northland Fishing Tackle had an event, as well as a lot of other companies on the Missouri system near Chamberlain. How did that go?
Yeah, so a couple of the guys were just out in Chamberlain, working with some of the Shields employees out there, and they got to do some fishing on the river. So the bite was good. They're catching a lot of eater-sized fish with some bigger fish mixed in between. The key was rumble bugs, and they're catching a lot of fish throwing rumble bugs. The purple color, it's kind of hard to see on my screen here, but this is that purple pearl color. Purple Wonder Bread did well. And they had to pitch them up right into the riprap. So basically land them a couple inches off the riprap. Yep, Purple Tiger was a really good one for them. And then crank it down. And the closer you got to shore, the more bites you were getting. So they're catching a lot of fish doing that. And then the other technique that was really working was a deep V jig with a paddle tail like the Impulse smelt minnow. So catching a lot of fish on that. Bright colors were keys. Pink chartreuses and whites. So, yeah, they were out getting some fish, enjoying the weather out there. I was a little jealous of them, but yeah, sounded like a good time.
Well, and that I heard that the NWT National Walleye Tour is in Chamberlain this coming up week, the 28th and 29th. It's going to be there, and I just talked to Dusty Minky, who is a touring pro, Northland Fishing Tackle guy, and his report was the water is getting muddy. There's heavy winds. And here's another thing. The walleyes are starting to spawn. And all you guys that know, when the walleyes start to spawn, it gets really tough. If you get one, you'll have a whole bunch of males following it. But they went from a super tough situation to another tough situation. I hope that everything goes well with those guys. That's really tough when that stuff happens. And but the water got muddy, he said, and the walleyes are spawning, and it's super windy. And so when do we get to put away our winter clothes here? I don't know. I'm about ready to bring out my otter, and I was going to tell you, I am working with Otter now. We're partners in Otter Fish Houses, and they have all kinds of stuff to use in your fish houses. Is a really cool company, and I've known them there for a long time, and it's so nice to join up with the best houses in the world. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to hear about ice fishing, but to me, it's fantastic because it's only a little over 6 months away for me to be able to pull my otters back out. But I won't tell you, I was on the ice not too long ago because some of our best shots get done right now, actually. So here's the thing: as the tournament gets closer by Chamberlain, the water's rising and getting dirtier. Tough go. Well, I wish them all the best, and good luck, Dusty, and everybody out there. I hope you have a great tournament. And I guess too that we have some, I know we're gonna have some huge prizes tonight. Sam, what are we giving away tonight?
Yep, so we mix it up a little bit. We've been doing a lot of the crankbaits here. We switched to jigs. So we have a big prize pack full of deep V and deep V bucktail jigs. Ooh. Of course, you get the Bro Roadshow mug along with that. So really nice prize pack. Make sure to like, comment your questions, and share the show, and that will get you entered in to win the giveaway, or entered to have a chance to win the giveaway at the end of the show. So we'll be drawing at the end of the show. So like, comment, share throughout the show, and those will enter you to win. We also are continuing our big walleye sweepstakes at Northland Tackle. So we have that $500 gift pack that we're doing here, and you just got to go to northlandtackle.com. You can see the banner there, and you can click to enter. I think you just have to enter in your email, and that will sign you up for that massive giveaway. So that's got a bunch of crankbaits. I think there's some deep V's in there, some clothing, some bobbers. So really awesome little ticket to set you up. So I think
And that Lund doesn't come with the giveaway or the guide, does it?
Unfortunately not, or we'll have to talk to the people at Lund, one of the two. But
Yeah,
it's not coming on our end. So just the
well,
tackle.
here's a couple of my favorite deep V's. Love them. You want them to loft and slowly fall. But let's talk about getting boats ready here. And I'm super excited to tell you that Amped Outdoors has some great batteries, but I have my 36 volt 50 amp hour battery for my Lund, 2 of them. So I have 100 amp hours. You know how long I can run my trolling motor now, thanks to Amped?
I think you could run a city with that thing.
I am super excited. And if anybody knows, if you've been to a show and you want to see a booth that nobody can get near, it's the Amped booth. They keep us powered for electronics. There it is right here. Check this out. Amped is on board my Lund, and my garage is a mess, but my boat is really clean.
That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so in getting ready, could you give the viewers some tips on what they should do to get their boat ready?
Yeah, so I like to, right now is a perfect time to start going through all your tackle. If you're like us and we can't get out in the water, I've been taking this time, looking over all my crankbaits, seeing what I need there, looking at my jigs, see what I'm missing. Because I am one that's very guilty of getting out on those first days on the open water, and all of a sudden you're missing this or that. So now that we can't fish, utilize this time to go through your tackle, make sure your boat's cleaned, make sure your batteries are charged and good and ready to go. And then just keep it simple on your first few trips out. Start with a little bit and keep adding to your boat as you go. But yeah.
Well, trickle charge is a good way.
What do you do to get ready?
Well, one thing importantly is I try to find room. So organization is everything. And so I go through and I build shelves every year, and I want everything on a shelf. Don't want a heap. Don't like heaps, but organization is everything in your boat. Also, separate your tackle. Don't have too much on board. I'm an anti-jam and tackle on board kind of guy. I've had too many times where the bottom boxes, I don't care how good the boxes are, they get wet and everything gets ruined. So layer your tackle or use a tackle bag. And I like room in my boat, and some people will have 500 cranks with them. But whether I'm cranking, I'm on Erie or in a location where I really haven't been, I'll bring a tote with me. But when I find out what I need, then I just kind of minimize everything, and it goes down to one bag. So, your cranks can all fit in a few bags, but I have removable pods on my Lund 219. They came out right away. I take them right out. I want a big dance floor inside my boat. It's ready to go, but minimize what tackle you bring. Kind of the first time you have to have a big tote, but big old box and go through what works, and then leave the stuff behind, really condense.
What I do is I kind of keep my, so I do the same thing. I organize per box, but sometimes you find yourself out in the water wishing you had some. So I keep kind of one box that's like the juice box, that's got one of my best color in kind of every situation. So if you do get out in the water and you realize you forgot something, at least you have a few of those good things. But I think that's a great tip to keep it easy, keep it simple.
Right there.
It affects a lot of jigs can affect boat performance and all sorts of stuff. Finding it, keeping it organized, and then you remember what you got in there too. So,
well, and Mimic Minnow is probably the number one selling plastic, probably in all of fishing, just about. And these are some of the stuff I use on the South Dakota, Minnesota border, or if I'm in completely South Dakota. But I will never go anywhere near North or South Dakota without that one, that pink and white. I've done really well on the Border Lakes, Big Stone and Traverse. And then here's another one that works really good. And it doesn't, you don't need to take, 20 dozen of these things. Just bring a few out there. But some great tips. Hey, Sam, we got a special guest tonight.
Yep.
And his name's Cody Roswick. And most of the people in the fishing industry have heard of this guy because he's been around forever and will be in the Fishing Hall of Fame eventually because this guy is super famous. And all I know is he used to be a head of Lund Pro staff and all this stuff, and he's still a Lund guy. It's going to be super exciting to have him on. This guy we'll have on in a few more minutes here. But I want to go back and ask Sam, what are some new jigs that people should be looking for this spring?
Yep. So we just saw a question, or I saw a question come through about the deep V jig, and the sizes it comes in. So our deep V jig, we actually came out with it a couple years ago, but it's really an awesome jig, and it is taking off. We have been selling an absolute pile of them this spring. But it's got the deep V keel design, so it helps it fall fast and track straight through the water. And especially with the hair, it really works. And the deep V is available in 1/8, 1/4, and 3/8. So I forget his name, but someone just asked if it's available in 3/4. It is not. But again, that pill-shaped profile is going to help you in current and just regular water situations. Help that jig fall a little bit faster with that pill-shaped profile. So that's been a really hot one. Of course, the Fireball is great. I love the UV patterns in the spring. That's a springtime favorite. And then if you have those jigs in your boat, you can catch a lot of fish on them. Of course, we have a pile of jigs over at Northland, but those are definitely the go-tos.
Yeah. So hey, everybody here that's walleye or panfish, or even if you're bass or do both, but don't forget the Gamakatsu G Finesse. They have, already set up. But Shineke, he designed these different finesse drop shot rigs. That is a big deal for walleyes right now. Putting your plastics, your leeches, your crawlers in the walleye's face. Find out what depth they're at. Put a nice sinker at the bottom and throw that in. All you do is you clip a segment of line at the bottom, tie it on, and add your bait and stuff like this. I mean, I wish I would have known this stuff 20 years ago. This is so deadly. And if you don't have these in your box, Gamakatsu, the drop shots, what a genius. I hope I can meet this Shiniki someday. He sounds like he really knows his stuff. That, and then, of course, I shot Midwest Outdoors, and everybody was asking what I was using. I was using the Ripping Minnow, and I had my co-host on the show down by almost 20 walleyes, and that is the color that I used on Winnie. And here's another one that we're using until the pike got them all. But these are great baits, and light is very important. I think we're using 5/16 ounce and 1/4 ounce. But you can go heavy. It just sinks faster and falls. So great stuff. And stinger hook, going into the back of the paddle tail, what we do on the Detroit River a lot of times is we'll add a longer hook, a longer stinger. And there's a 3-inch stinger. There's a 2 and a is it 2.5 or 3?
I think it is 2 and 3.
2 and 3. So that 3-inch gets back there. But if you're really ripping or in fast current, go to a fork tail. And then if you're in lighter current, go to the paddle tail, and you'll have less problems. Mm-hmm. So that's a great question and a good thing. And so, okay, we're getting to that point. I want to bring in this guy. I have known him for a long time, and it's so good to see him. This guy has forgotten more about fishing than I'll ever know. Cody Roswick is in the house, and I'm so excited to see him. Come on, Cody. How you doing?
Hey, guys. Oh, great to be here.
Good to see you, man.
You, Cody.
Yeah. Ready for spring. Bring on some spring. It's been a long winter.
What's the ice conditions or / open water conditions looking like for you out there?
Well, it's actually looking pretty good. We had a lot of wind lately. We've had some rain. Most of our small lakes are open. I know Devil's Lake and Stump Lake are still struggling with some ice up there, but everything south of, say, Highway 2 is almost completely open. We got the Missouri River open out at Bismarck. That's been open for a while, and there's some guys taking advantage of that. We got a good early season bite out there. I'm hopefully headed out there this weekend, but it's starting to get going. We just been struggling with the weather. We have these big systems that come in on Friday, Saturday, and it keeps repeating itself. Sounds like it's going to happen again this Friday and Saturday. So we just need to get that pattern stabilized and get some warm weather, and we'll be ready to rumble.
Yeah, maybe
see,
wind
Cody-
on the Tuesday, Wednesdays, so you can fish on the weekends.
Yeah, that's about right.
You're out of Dodge City, North Dakota, aren't you? And you're not
That-
just an open water angler. You're a hardcore ice guy in all season.
Yep.
So I have one question to ask a guy who does all that. You're a Lund guy. What are you running this year? I want to hear it.
Well, I actually have 2 Lund boats. I actually have more than that, but the 2 boats I use for guiding is I've got a 2075 Pro Guide. I'm a big tiller guy. I always have been. I like the extra room in the boat. I can comfortably take 4 people a day. And I also run a 20-foot Lund Alaskan tiller.
Oh,
And that allows me to get into some smaller lakes. It's a good boat to get down some gravel roads. We have a lot of gravel to get to some of our premier waters over here. So those are my 2 boats, big 20-foot tiller boats. They just have a lot of room. You can have a barn dance in them.
I've fished out of that 20-foot Pro Guide with you before, and it's like a floating conference room. You could fit like 10 guys in that thing. It's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it. And Josh from Trapper's Landing on Leech Lake runs a big Alaskan, and he's got his all tricked out. He's got super heavy duty front and back, and he could beach that boat on any surface anywhere. He's got a heavy duty keel thing, and that guy's running a big Leech Lake, and he loves his Alaskan. And I could see why. You don't see him everywhere. I think if people did, everybody would buy him.
Yeah. It's, I used to work at Lund, and it's probably the most talked about but least sold boat that Lund makes. Now it's actually a lot more popular. You go to Devil's Lake, North Dakota, you're going to see a lot of Lund Alaskans. There's areas of Devil's Lake that are hard to get a boat into, and I actually started a trend up there with those Lund Alaskans, and there's quite a number of guides that own them and use them exclusively up there because they can get into those ditch access areas. The boats don't draft much water, so they'll float in 8-10 inches of water, and it's really important to get to some of those key parts of the lake out in all over the Dakotas, really.
That's awesome.
All right, Cody. So what you've been with Northland for a long time now. What is your favorite go-to Northland lure?
Ooh, say the one I use the most. I've got lots of favorites, but the one I use the most is the tried and true RZ jigs. And I'll even go so far to say glow watermelon is a color that works everywhere I fish. It's something I have tied on all spring, all summer, all fall. Just a real good quality premium lead head jig is that RC jig, and I couldn't live without them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Let's say the RZ is just the classic round head design, but got a good sharp black nickel hook on it, and it's hard to beat. We sell a lot of RZ jigs out there,
and the RZ jigs unique in the fact that it does have a premium hook. It's got a longer shank, so if you're using live bait or artificials, it's real versatile. It works well for all my situations. You got all the sizes that you need. There's times where I'm fishing real heavy current. I need really heavy jigs, those half-ounce jigs. So the RZ jigs are by far my most utilized piece of Northland tackle.
Wow, that's kind of a guide coincidence. I'm right there, and I'm slowly sliding towards the deep V's, but the RZs, I got to say, I use them most of the time, and all the colors, and that glow watermelon's huge in Leech, Cass Winnie area, but I don't know, the blue and glow probably sells the least. I think I buy them all.
you might.
There's a lot of great colors. I just I really like to keep things simple, and glow watermelon just works day in and day out, and it's just one of my favorite colors. So I thought I'd share that with everybody. I too just love those deep V jigs. I love the hook keepers on them. I like the premium hook. I like that they're available with hair on them. The Missouri River right now is just a hair jig mecca. So those deep V jigs are selling really well out here, and I'm sure everywhere, because they're such a good looking jig. I like that big eyeball. I like how they cut current. We got lots of great jigs to choose from, but those are some of my favorites.
I know
they fall slow. You're pitching up to riprap, and this thing falls really slow. It's the same on the Mississippi River. This is a huge lure to actually use down there. Some of the biggest walleyes I've ever seen caught on the Mississippi were caught on this. And I know if we were down there in Chamberlain, I know I'd have a lot of those ready to go. And now let's get into the talk more about where to fish now. And you got a large country area there to fish between North and South Dakota. There's a huge menu of lakes and rivers. Cody, could you go into detail? Anglers are majorly suffering from cabin fever on a super extended long winter grind this year. Yes. Would you throw a few tips? Where would you send them if they're going to go to the Dakotas?
Well, we're kind of on the cusp of everything opening up and the water finally warming up out here in the Dakotas. Most of our rivers and small lakes are open, and we do have the Missouri River open. That's something that's kind of like the Rainy River of the Dakotas. Gets a lot of traffic, a lot of good fishing. Every year they break some state records out there. It's a fun place to fish early in the season, but I also like to go to some of our small, shallow lakes that warm up real fast. We've got some great rivers in eastern North Dakota, the Cheyenne and the James River. So, there's too many to name, but I love Lake Ashtabula. I love Cheyenne River in the spring. Just lots of opportunities over here, and our season never closes. So I too am cabin fever just because of the weather. I've got people that are just chomping at the bit to go, and I've had to push back trips for 2 weeks now. So I'm hoping to fit them all in and really get rolling later this week.
Well, this year is the year to have like the Reaper hoodie that you could pull up to here when you're driving if you're in a tiller. And then, of course, I have not gone anywhere without my Fish Monkey Stealth Dry Techs. Everybody loves these woolies. I mean, they sell out of these nonstop. The Stealth Monkey Fish Monkey Stealth Dry Tech is waterproof, so I can put on minnows all day, never take them off, and I could double hook minnows, fatheads on RZ jigs and stuff. But it's important to dress right. And I know those guys who are in Detroit River, they had teens temperatures, and the backs of their boats are covered in ice, and they really had it rough. And now they got heavy wind and mud, and that's got to be rising. All that water's heading through the Dakotas and heading their way, and I hope they have a good tournament. But when the walleye spawn, how do you fish walleyes when they're spawning? I mean, isn't it like the toughest time? I think so.
It is, but fortunately they don't all spawn at the exact same time. So there's some, especially on parts of the Missouri River, like Bismarck, North Dakota, there's a big run of fish that come up the river in the spring, and fortunately they don't all spawn at the same time. And as the females pull up and spawn, dump their eggs, and then pull off, the males just hang around those areas, and they become more and more active as the water warms up. So there's a great bite for those male walleyes in the spring on the Missouri River. And fortunately, statistically, there's so many fish in some of those areas, there's always a few willing to bite. So,
and somebody was wondering what type of action rod would you use? And I use, when I'm fishing with a hair jig, a St. Croix Legend Elite. I like more of a medium light, just to kind of waft it up and kind of lob it in, like in a 7-foot. What do you use as far as your action?
For the most part, I'm using medium action rods, but I really like medium lights too. Sure. It depends on the size jig that I'm using. If I'm in heavy current and I'm using 3/8 or even 1/2 ounce jigs, then I tend to use a little stouter rod, like a medium action rod. But if you get in that 1/8, 16 ounce, even 1/4 ounce, that's where medium light is. It kind of shines with a little lighter jig.
I know, Sam, you like using braid, don't you, Sam?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll use braid or pretty much all the time braid with a fluorocarbon leader. So yeah, those little bit lighter action rods, you can just feel absolutely everything that's going down there. There was another good question that I saw come through too, that I think you guys should answer, because I want to hear both your answers from it. Is, do you tip your hair jigs with a minnow, and if so, when and why?
Oh, you go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely do to start out with, but if I miss a fish or think my minnow has fallen off, I'll continue to keep that jig down there, knowing that there's an active fish in the area. So I definitely I don't reel in and check the minnow as often if I'm using a hair jig, but I do tip. I usually tip a fathead minnow.
That's really true. And no matter where I go, a chunk of crawler on a hair jig. I don't know. That's my number one. And I do like, or just a little fathead on there. And you don't need a big minnow. They could smell it. They waft behind it. And there's something about that crawler. It just seems to work anywhere you go, from Lake Erie to the Dakotas. A little chunk. You don't need a gob. You don't want it to act odd to spin like a clump. You want just a little chunk of crawler on there. And so really, really good questions. We had another question here. Early in the spring, do you go aggressive or slower? And that was a good question by Andrew.
Yeah, and I'm definitely a slow guy. Typically it's finesse in the spring. There's days when they're really, you can temper the mood of the fish. And if they're real aggressive, then I'll pick up the pace and maybe do a little snap jigging. But for the most part, I'm just giving it the slow rise, twitch, and kind of dragging it along the bottom. We do a lot of casting and dragging jigs, and then we also slip the current and vertical jig as well. So,
what kind of knots are you using, Cody?
What's that?
Someone was asking what kind of knots you use. What are you using for knots on your braid? Are you using braid to a fluorocarbon or to your jig?
Yeah, I use pretty much a no stretch braid or a fused line, almost 100% of the time. If our fish, we usually have pretty stained water, and our fish really aren't line shy over here, so they go braid direct to the jig. But there are some certain situations where we have some clearer water, or I think you want to slow the fall of the jig a little bit, so I'll put a little chunk of fluorocarbon or monofilament for a little leader or a little shock absorber. And the knots that I tie, the majority of the time, are the polymer knot or just an improved cinch. And I've actually spent hundreds of hours at a knot tying machine in my day.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to see lots of crazy knots. And those two are easy to tie. They have great knot strength. And they're kind of my go-to, the improved cinch and the polymer knot.
The improved cinch, the polymer is probably the best. But I've swung in a lot of fish on an improved cinch, and I know you have.
Yeah,
you can swing in. You don't want to swing in a 19 in a tournament, but if you're on a good bite, you can swing a pretty good sized fish in, and that's a way to test it if it's still good. So great questions, everybody, and we got some giveaways tonight. Sam, how can the viewers win? Because everybody can't believe how much stuff we give away on this show. It's just amazing.
Yep. So a reminder. We have the awesome Northland Tackle Deep V prize pack going on. So a bunch of the Deep V jigs and the Deep V bucktail jigs. And of course, the limited Bro Roadshow mugs. So to enter into the giveaway, comment your questions, and share the show. That'll get you entered in. We'll pick a winner here towards the end of the show. So make sure to get that in before the end of the show, and we'll pick a winner. Also, Northland is running that big $500 walleye opener sweepstakes online. So make sure to go to www.northlandtackle.com and you'll find some banners where you'll be able to click and enter to sign up for that giveaway as well. So
wow, you're going to need a bag the size of Ocean's 11 to get away with all that stuff right there.
I think you can fish a whole year on just that package alone.
Yeah, and so Sam, you were going to ask Cody about the seasons. It never closes, he said earlier. Isn't that amazing? We're going to have to head over there.
Yeah, Cody. So how does, being able to fish walleyes throughout the season, do you transfer what you've been finding on the ice right away to open water? Or is that little window where you can't fish enough to kind of throw the fish off?
with perch, I do, but for the most part, the walleyes are really transitioning that time of year. There is some crossover between ice and the early open water, but for the most part, the fish are they're staging and they're moving a lot that time of year to get ready to spawn. They're headed to current areas or windswept shorelines, so there is definitely a change about that time of year as far as fish locations go. We're real fortunate to have year-round game fish seasons here, and you can read about it at the North Dakota Game and Fish website. They have a good explanation of why they keep our season open. There's very few fish caught really in this time frame of April and early May, and that biologically they just don't feel that it affects the reproduction of our especially our walleyes. Walleyes are king out here. We've got very robust walleye populations in a lot of areas, and we have enough of them, and the recruitment's so strong in a lot of these situations that they don't feel that it really hurts our population to target some of these walleyes. And really, we're catching and keeping mostly males that time of year, which if you know anything about fish biology, it's the females that kind of need to be protected this time of year. So it's pretty interesting, and it's nice that we're able to capitalize on some nice days that we do have in the spring. I know we haven't had many lately, but
well, you kind of answered what I've been wanting to ask is how the populations are in the areas you guide, and just answered they're robust, and that's very good. So on that, I'm just curious. Do you guide for perch or panfish in the open water season, like going in and out? Do you ever target perch in open water? I know you do on ice, but just curious.
Yeah, I do on occasion. You typically need, and usually it's a mix. Very, very seldom do I just target perch in the course of a day. Where you are walleye fishing, and if we get our fill of walleyes, then we'll go chase some perch if there's some good opportunities, or if I feel there's going to be some opportunities. Nice calm days is when we can really catch some perch out here in the open water season. But most of it is walleye fishing with a splash of northern pike, white bass, and then we have some pretty good panfish opportunities. We have some good crappie fishing at times, some good bluegills, and then our number one panfish out here is the jumbo perch.
Well, we got a bunch of questions, Sam. Could you look those up and ask them? People want to know from Cody a bunch of questions here.
Yeah, so we had one come through that asked how often you guys change your leader material when you're doing direct to braid. So
yeah, I was going to say that earlier. I am constantly taking my fingers and I'm testing that little piece of, usually it's about a 2-foot piece of monofilament or fluorocarbon leader when I use it. And I just run my fingers down, and I feel any kind of nick in that line, then I'll just cut and retie real quick. And that's typically the case. One nice thing about fluorocarbon is it doesn't deteriorate with the UV rays like monofilament does. Mm-hmm. So it's a little more durable. It's a little stiffer. I really like it for a leader material. But I'm just constantly looking for nicks. If I'm in a tournament situation or a situation where the leader's getting shorter and shorter, and I'll just cut and retie.
If you're fishing quite a bit, you tie, a 2 feet leader on or so. Eventually, just the retie is clipping it down. Once it gets to about a foot, that's kind of a good rule of thumb. But yes, the feeling, that's a great tip because you do that too. You can also sometimes see the cloudiness in the leader.
That's a very important thing. Great questions, everybody out there. These are excellent questions, and I pretty much you answer everything the way I would do it too. And I like a fluorocarbon leader lighter than the braid I'm using when I'm with clients. If you're using braid, you're going to lose a tip off your rod. It doesn't matter how strong your rod is. you could pull your boat to shore by your rod, but a sharp tug, high sticking with braid, and you're in a snag, and you could shatter an expensive rod. And I want braid. And here's my new favorite rod this year is I really like this. This is going to be something nice for open waters, Legend Elite Panfish. And this is only a 5. I think this is only a 5.6 or a 5.9 here. Nope, it's a 6 foot, really short, fishing under the transducer, super light, feather light. I can't wait to get this out because our panfish are not going to be shallow right away. Northern Minnesota just doesn't do that. They don't just jump up into the shallows. Got to go to the ice fishing spots sometimes, and I can't wait to vertically fish with it. And definitely check out that line of rods online if you get a chance.
So Cody, another question for you.
Yeah.
For someone coming out to the Dakotas to fish for the first time, maybe they're doing a vacation out there, a day trip. What would be your number one tip to give someone who's never fished out there? What's different about it? I don't know. Just kind of run through some Dakota fishing basics for us.
Well, the beauty of Devil's Lake is just a robust fish population. Especially a walleyes in the summer. You get into June, July, and August, you can literally catch walleyes on about every piece of structure out there. We've got a lot of shallow rocks. We've got shallow trees. We've got deep basins. We've got windswept cattail shorelines. We've got it all. And I would say the biggest thing, if you're coming to, say, Devil's Lake, for example, which is one of our premier fisheries, is just fish your strong suits. If you like trolling bottom bouncers and spinners, that's a great way to catch lots and lots of walleyes. If you like to jig fish, you can do that too. Slip bobber fishing is really effective on Devil's Lake. Trolling crankbaits and casting crankbaits is very effective. So just fish your strong suits. Fish the wind. If there's wind blowing in on a shoreline, especially for a couple days, guarantee there's going to be some fish along that particular shoreline. So, typically you can fish shallow much of the summer, especially if the wind's blowing. But you can literally catch fish about anywhere you go. Sometimes just finding those bigger ones takes a little effort.
And that's cool to have a fishery that you can do that there's so much variation in it, so many fish in it that a guy can just show up and kind of fish their strengths. It's unique. Yep. Not every lake is like that. A lot of lakes are really set to a certain way, but yeah, that Devils has so many points and holes and whatnot that.
Well, that's a big lake. What is that? 150,000 acres now?
Yeah, and it's much bigger than that, Brian. It's actually, if you take the whole Devil's Lake Basin from Stump Lake all the way past Pelican Lake and up towards Candu, you got Lake Irvin, the refuge of Lake Alice, Mike's Lake, Chain Lake. There's literally like 75 miles of water there, and there's lots of little bays. There's lots of arms. It's a much bigger system than people realize, and it really spreads everybody out nicely. We do get a lot of pressure, but there are parts of the lake I'll go to on a regular basis, and I won't see 3 boats in a whole day, which what really makes it nice. You find and fish your own fish.
It's big water, but there's lots of accesses, lots of points in smaller areas. So if you have a smaller boat, is there room to go out and hide if you get a big blow day?
Yeah, actually there is. There's almost always a place you can get out of the wind. You can, fish by a bridge. You can get behind an embankment. There's lots of little bays and coves. The state does a real good job with access. So there's almost always a place you can get out of the fish, even with a little 16-foot boat, and feel comfortable catching something. You'll catch white bass, northerns, walleyes, perch. It's a pretty unique system. One thing that's really unique about the Devil's Lake Basin is it's a closed basin. There's no rivers or streams that run in and out of the lake. There's some drainages that run in, but nothing runs out of Devil's Lake. And because of that, we don't have any rough fish in Devil's Lake. And in fact, until the 1970s, pretty much the only thing in Devil's Lake were perch, northerns, and white suckers, because people used to fish sucker minnows for northerns. Sure. And Since then, they've done a great job of stocking the body of water with walleyes. They put some white bass in there. They've stocked perch and northerns over the years, but we don't have a lot of rough fish. So the game fish don't have to compete with all the rough fish like bullheads and carp and sheephead and some of the more undesirable fish. They're not competing with them. So we have a higher density of game fish in the Devil's Lake Basin. And that's one of the key factors.
Wow.
All the food that's in Devil's Lake. We've got lots of macroinvertebrates, just a smorgasbord of food for them with freshwater shrimp, lots of minnows. They've got really fast growth rates. And again, not to go on and on about Devil's Lake, because all of our small lakes are really fertile and really full of food. And that is, our biomass of fish is so strong because we have so much food in our water.
That's amazing.
That shrimp deal is pretty crazy. I remember the first time I was out at Devil's was with you ice fishing, and we drilled a few holes, and the shrimp started to come up, and you're like, "Oh, we're gonna catch them." And yeah, we proceeded to catch these perch that are just puking up shrimp throughout the day. It was a fun trip, and yeah, it's something we don't see that freshwater or that mass of freshwater shrimp and those invertebrates where they're just puking it up. It's so
too bad the shrimp weren't like this big, so we could eat them too.
I know they look
tasty.
great.
I thought right. See how they taste sometime.
Well, yeah, I know that I was there. I toured the FLW and the National Walleye Tour, and I haven't been in a few years. And I don't mind; it's tough. It's a lot of work. But when I was there at a championship, I remember fishing, and on one of my spots, I slid into it, and we got a couple perch over 2 pounds in open water, fishing on a walleye spot. It was just covered with perch. The walleyes weren't there that day, so we had to leave. I remember my co-angler wanted to kill me because we had to leave, and I'm like, we got to keep going. We're in a tournament here, but it's amazing, and nobody really targets it. Are they kind of saving them for ice? Is that what the deal is? We caught a lot of them.
And they're traditionally hard to catch. If you get some nice calm days in the summer and early and late fall, you'll notice that the perch get a little more aggressive, and you'll catch a few while you're walleye fishing, or you'll see little pods of perch if you watch your electronics, and you can slow down and target the perch. But our walleye population is so strong, and the perch fishing is pretty hit and miss a lot of the year. So yeah, definitely all our attention pretty much is on the walleyes in open water. And then come fall and the ice season is when everybody targets perch.
Sure. And I know that there's a question there about electronics, and I use Humminbird Helix. I like them simple. I don't need touchscreen or anything. I just want to see my side imaging in my GPS screen most of the time. But now we got Mega Live. Have you had a chance to use it at all, Cody, or are you going to be doing that?
I will be. I've been exposed to Mega Live. I too use the Helix units. I think they're just wonderful. They're so easy to use. They're user friendly. The GPS is great. The traditional 2D sonar is great. I really use down imaging a lot. I use side imaging as well, but down imaging has been real important for me the last couple of years. I can actually tell the size of the fish sometimes, which is really nice. You can almost depict different species with it. The Mega Live, I actually had Nick Linder come out, and we shot some stuff this winter, and he brought his new Mega Live unit with him. We were on a lake just loaded with perch, and they were really active, and I was really impressed with Mega Live. I've been exposed to some of that forward facing transducer stuff the last few years. It's pretty impressive. I know guys that can't fish without it now. As a guide, it's actually kind of big and cumbersome for me to, and it takes a lot of time. So I don't utilize it as much as I'd like to, but I know they're going to refine that stuff, and I will have a Mega Live transducer in very short order if when they catch up on them. Yeah.
So guys, there's a lot of people that bought new units, this winter. What's your suggestions for people who just bought a new Helix unit or in any other kind of Humminbirds? what should they do to get comfortable with their unit and make sure they're using their unit to its full advantage?
Oh boy. I would say if I had to throw in there, get your preset pages on right away. There's presets you could set up the pages you use the most, and delete. No, don't delete, but hide. You can go in the menu and hide the pages you don't use, so you don't get lost in a sea of pages. And remember, you just exit is going through the is scrolling through, and then menu, and then there's a quick menu on the on and off button. But for the most part, it's pretty. Hummingbird's so simple to use, and so just start out by getting out there in your garage, even in your boat, and start pushing some buttons. You'd be surprised. It's self tutoring just by using it, and using all the maps and stuff. And your boat is one big network. You can run your trolling motor. I run my trolling motor off the screen. If I left my remote up front, I can run the whole thing from my screen. It's amazing what you can do. It's pretty fun. What do you think, Cody?
Yeah, I would reiterate a lot of what you said. They are a bit self-tutoring. Spending some time on the water, practicing, will go a long way with you. The bigger units like a Helix 10, there are 3 preset buttons that save you a lot of time when you're going from your chart plotter to your traditional sonar or side imaging or down imaging. So that could save you a lot of time. And then I like to keep things simple. I mostly run it on auto range, auto gain. If I have, the sonar technology is so far superior than it used to be. They work great on just about any water conditions that you have.
Yeah.
Well, and I got something here that Sam absolutely loves, and I'm kind of debuting, but it's already out. The AquaView 722 is out right now. You can see it at aquaview.com. The 722 is a big screen, AquaView 7-inch screen, and it's with a micro camera, so you don't scare fish. But I can't wait to use this in open water with a lighter camera. I actually fish under it in my boat, and I'm going to have this ready. And someone asked about Mega Live versus 360. 360 shows you everything around you all at once, all the time. And Mega Live, you got to kind of point and shoot. It's kind of like target shooting versus seeing everything. And then I like to use this because if you're fishing a school of suckers and you're a guide, you don't want to be that sucker. You know what I mean? So I love the AquaView, and they're innovative. And there's something really, really big coming. Mark my words, everybody. I just can't say nothing. They'll kill me.
Guys, we had a really good question a while ago, and someone was asking about the bait shortage. So we've heard with this late ice that shiner minnows might be tough to come by. And I know, Cody, you don't have them out in Devil's Lake, right? But you do guide quite a bit in Otter Tail County as well. So you know how important shiner minnows can be. I know the bait shops are going to try their hardest to get them, but if they're hard to get, what are you guys going to be doing to replace those shiner minnows? Jigging techniques, utilizing plastics. What's your key there?
Go ahead, Cody.
Okay. Well, yeah, I do know the importance of a spot tail shiner, especially in western Minnesota or all over Minnesota in the spring. When walleyes are keying on those spot tail shiners, there is nothing that works better. I mean, they are just so dialed in on those things. They're hard to replace. Yes, there probably will be a continued shortage of spot tail shiners, but there's some other good options out there. A nice, bright, good size fathead minnow, a lot of times they will a fish has a hard time passing that up in the spring. So make sure and get even when I'm fishing shiners real heavily, I'll always get an extra scoop of fatheads just because they're usually cheaper. There's sometimes where you can downsize and take a little smaller minnow, or you really feel like you need a little smaller minnow. So a nice shiny fathead will work real well. There's golden shiners, small sucker minnows. There's some great options out there. Don't feel like you're completely handicapped if you don't have spot tail shiners, but it's no secret. Everybody wants to have them if they're available.
Well, I got to tell you, hey, Spence, if you're out there, Spence is a great guy. Don't forget about me. He's a trapper in the area, and a lot of the lakes, because of the heavy snow and thick ice, froze out. And we're going to find out that some lakes froze out of fish, too. There was crappies under the ice, a foot under the ice 2 months ago, they're toast. They got to be. But all the like the goalie lakes, they're dead. Some of these fathead lakes, all these different lakes full of minnows in the woods are dead. But spot tails, they're looking at expanding some of the trapping waters. I'm not as worried. It's a limited thing. But if they're allowed to trap everywhere, if we could just figure out if they're washing their stuff, I hope that the DNR gives them a little longer leash, because the bait shops could really load up, and spot tails aren't the concern because they can get them as they need to. But red tails, they can get those. But, what are they, $15, $18 a dozen? That's it. It's a guaranteed bite. But I'm with Cody. If I can get some fatheads, even on the shiner bite lakes, fatheads are amazing bait. They work great. I've used fatheads on leech, Winnie, Cass, when you can actually sometimes see the walleyes, and a shiner is a guaranteed bite, but they'll slam them fatheads. Sam, we're going to be giving away something in a few minutes here. Could you just give us a brief what's
yeah. You got a few more minutes to get entered into the Northland giveaway, so make sure to like, comment, and share the show. We'll be picking it in, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes here. So like, comment, and share. You'll get a chance to win the giveaway. And then also don't forget about the big $500 walleye sweepstakes giveaway on northlandtackle.com.
Look at that. You're going to need an Alaskan to carry all that stuff. But those are some great things. And Cody, I think in the Dakotas, you have a really good stock of fatheads over there. But, I mean, I'm sure there that some of the ponds have froze out and stuff. But it's importing bait that's tough. Yeah. I mean, I guess in Wisconsin, golden shiners, they're all over at the shops there. And a lot of those are brought up from Arkansas. And we're so worried nowadays about water, and we should be. We got to be real careful because, if we get a zebra mussel in the lake or milfoil, that's terrible. But if you get a disease in the lake that kills everything, that's real bad. So I understand all that, but there's going to have to be ways, and we're going to have to get better at using plastics. It's all about colors. That's the whole thing. And mimic minnows, even on Winnie, leech, and Cass, we've banged limits on mimic minnows. But some great stuff.
This deep V and impulse paddle tail or paddle minnow is awesome. But I think another challenge with this spring is it needs a little bit of water warmth to it. When that water's still cool, it's hard to beat that jig and a minnow slowly working on the bottom. But as those temps start to rise, I've had days where this will outfish a jig and a minnow. So
I bet you Cody would like that. That's one of your brainchild things there. And
ripping minnow, yeah, that is.
I kill them with this thing, and I didn't like the tail at first because I like a fork. That tail is slowly becoming more one of my favorites. I like it more than a fork on somebody's water. I like that little point. It works great.
Yeah, it's very hydrodynamic, and that makes a big difference on that particular jig. In order to get that walk the dog action that you want when you're jigging it, when you want that thing to dart around and be sporadic, and that pin tail that ripping minnow has is really important to the head of that jig. So
I remember when you were helping design that with us, Cody, you're like, you need to put it on this tail. It works the best on this tail. So we made a tail to exactly mimic that.
Yeah, and you watch it in the water, you'll see what
you can see it. It's amazing how much it helps the action. And the rigging channel in there, you also were critical about how rigging it straight was important. So we added in that little rigging channel. The Rippin' Minnow has a channel that the hook sits perfectly in, so you can rig it perfect every time. So it's really a nice little bait.
I hate to ring in here, Sam. It's time for a giveaway. Here we go, Cody.
Our winner picked out. It looks like Lauren Dewar is going to be.
All right, congratulations, Lauren.
So congratulations. We'll be reaching out and get that shipped out.
You've got a bunch of hair jigs coming your way. I want to thank Cody for coming on the show. This guy is a fountain of knowledge. He's an industry favorite. Everybody loves him. He knows stuff, and definitely got to have him on speed dial. This guy's got spots, fishing, and techniques. Thanks for coming out, and we need to get him back. It's just too much information here. And I also want to thank Sam for being my co-host and tolerating a crazy guy like me. And Brooke, my producer, this has been a great show. We will see you next Monday and 7 o'clock sharp. But until then, everybody, be safe. Wear a life jacket when you're on the water and have a great trip. Good luck to the NWT anglers out there in Chamberlain. Thanks.
Thank you.